It all started as fun for me. The first drink. I didn't know I was getting into a terrible journey of addiction. Now I'm 6 years sober. It has been an amazing journey. And every day I wake up trying to help somebody start their recovery journey. I am Kimaru, and this is my story.
It is well known that every choice comes with a consequence. Once a choice is made, one has to accept responsibility of the consequences. We meet Chrispus Kimaru, an eighth born in a family of 9 who lived the bitter consequences of a choice he once made.
I grew up in Nyeri. My dad came from Nairobi around 1990. And of course, he had been doing very well, but he came and became a farmer. He was still doing well. So they became farmers, my mom and my dad. And we never lacked. But of course, like in a family during the 90s, there were struggles.
Hailing from a stable middle-income family did not translate to a blissful childhood, as Chris struggled with a thorn in his flesh.
I was a small-bodied boy. Maybe I struggled with the self-esteem, low self-esteem because of that. Because I would have liked to be like the other boys, talking to girls, confident and all that. So I struggled a lot. I was very bright in school, but I still never felt like I belonged.
Perseverance was a bitter pill for Chris to swallow, and before long, he adopted some coping mechanisms just to survive.
I went to a school in Kimaru district. A school I passed well, not as well as I wanted in my KCPE, but I got admitted to a funny school where we were bullied, seriously bullied. Bullying where they even take your clothes off and they want to confirm whether you are circumcised. From Form 3, I got serious with my studies, Form 2, Form 3, and I started maybe recapturing my sense of direction. I even got into the top 20, then top 10. By the time I was doing my MOOCs, I was doing well.
Just when he had gotten a sense of direction, the enemy struck, once again hitting hard below the belt.
2000, before I started Form 4, that's the year I actually started now serious drinking. I remember 1st of January 2000, we prepared some moratina in the village with 3 of my friends. So we had a lot of moratina, but I didn't know that alcohol drinking had some formula. So I ended up blacking out. I ended up get crashing into a wedding where I woke up at. It was in the middle, people were surrounding the place, they were in white. And the first thing that came to mind, because I was an altar boy before, was that I was in heaven. Maybe from my Sunday school days, I thought that was how heaven was supposed to be. Guys in white, and they are looking like, oh, this is heaven. These are angels now. They have welcomed me. I'm dead, and it's good. I'm in heaven. I'm not in hell.
Little did he know that he had opened a Pandoras box.
I don't know how I sank so quickly from having fun, to that craving. You know, it's supposed to be a process. For me, I dipped. It's like I had so many underlying issues or problems that it was like waiting. I was waiting for something to make me feel good. I used to feel so confident when drunk, and that is exactly what I wanted. I could talk to women. I could talk to girls, even my age mates. 2001, as the results came out, I was disappointed. I drank more. Then the worst thing that happened was the sachets, you know, the 10 bob and 20 bob drinks, you know. And I was working in the shamba, so my dad would maybe give me 200 over the weekend. And I would send for a pack of 24 of those drinks, of those sachets. So throughout the weekend, I would be high, very high. My dad, I think my parents never noted that early. But I would be in the village shouting. Sometimes they would get the information, but they never got to see me. I was always in a mess. Again, this feeling of an outsider, never feeling like you belong to the family, never feeling like you really belong to the clique of friends, because they're able to talk to girls, and that feeling of self-insufficiency or low self-esteem drove me further into drinking.
Soon, Chris got a calling letter to join university, where his life took a turn to the worst.
I went and discovered now changa. Remember, there was help money. There was money from the government. And then I discovered changa. Wow! It was like heaven for me. There is independence, cheap liquor, and money. Because I would go there in the morning, I would drink and drink and drink. I didn't care much about schooling because I was still sharp. Now, the worst thing that happened in second year was discovering paid sex or prostitutes. The first time I had, that paid sex, the first time I paid a prostitute, it was like I had discovered gold in my homestead. That was now the beginning of a combination of a lethal combination: alcohol, sex. Alcohol, and not sex, prostitutes.
From bad to worse, Chris was fast going down the bottomless pit. By then, his family was fully aware of his vices and was getting fed up by his ignorance to their counsel. One day...
So I ended up in the church. The CU were preparing for their Sunday service. And I told them, I remember, the point I remember is telling them I need to stop drinking. They prayed for me and all that, but by the next morning, I didn't remember exactly what had happened. So when that brother came to my room and started calling me Brother Chris, I was shocked. I was asking him, "You're not my brother. What brother do you mean?" And I had a hangover, and I was smelling that changa. I remember it was bad. So I told him, can we walk outside? So he told me, you got born again. Brother, uliokoka. Kuokoka. Oh, now I started recalling some bits. So now my roommates were laughing because they heard that. And they were saying, kuokoka. Of all other people, Chris, ameokoka. So I felt challenged. I told the brother, let's go for that Bible study. I'll not relapse. And I stayed for 7 months without relapsing. And I got into church, and it was so peaceful.
The peace was short-lived as the enemy crafted a cunning plan to pull him down.
There was a music festival, and a big artist was coming. And by that time, we had started leasing out these movies and renting out, because I wasn't drinking, so I was able to save money with my roommates. So when he came, we were selling the tickets, and of course there was alcohol being sold, and we had money. I had money. So I ended up relapsing, and there was a lot of shame and guilt. So it got worse now. The drinking from 2005 to 2017 was the worst now. Those 12 years, I rank them as the worst years in my life.
Despite being tied down by the shackles of cross addiction, Chris managed to keep afloat in his studies, and soon he graduated.
But even during the graduation, I was so high. I didn't want my parents to come. I wanted them to give me money. So that I can continue drinking. So after college, I looked for a job in Kikuyu, Togoto, the Kambura area, and we were being paid 7,000. I was the highest paid, more than even the principal. It was like a private school, but you would never get all the money. And even if I was given 1,000, that was like $1 million in Gekambura. And the alcohol was cheap. Keg had come. Keg was in the market. So with 30 shillings, with 200 you already drunk with keg. So with 1,000 you are like a millionaire. And the worst part is that school was a day school. So some students were also drinking, and they would even get me there over the weekend and buy me drinks. It was a terrible life.
Chris had become like a patron in the most renowned brothels in town, and his uncontrollable drinking habits got him fired. Soon, he secured a better job in a prestigious company.
So Safaricom came, and the money came. Now the drinking moved a notch higher, but only for some time. I went back to keg, but now the prostitutes, that became like a focus. So I would work during night shift. In the morning, instead of going to Pipeline where I used to stay, I would go directly to town. And I would spend the day there in the brothels. There's one called Somerset near Odeon. That used to be like my home. And because I had money, instead of now in the evening going back to the house, I would just buy another t-shirt or a jumper. And I would go back to work. I remember there was a time somebody told me, "Hey Chris, uko sawa hivi? Hataki kuambia unanuka, but you have been in those brothels and you're now going to work with classy people." It's by God's grace that I didn't get sick. And yes, your family, you can tell your family about drinking, but you can't go tell them about sex addiction. You can tell them that maybe in a night you are having sex with 5 women, and they would never understand that. They would say maybe you are cursed.
Hire and fire had become the trend in his career world, and soon Chris lost his job once more.
That's when now my friend came for me from Pipeline to Kariobangi. In Kariobangi now the situation, remember I don't have a job. I have realized, oh my God, I have messed a big job. So the shame, the guilt now multiplied. Now the drinking got worse. Of course, Kariobangi, Korogosho, kwa chief, ni hapo tu. So I would go for whatever was available. Changa, the hottest that is coming from Mathare. And of course the prostitutes again. You would even pay 40 shillings to have sex. But you're having sex with somebody who even clearly looks like she is sick.
Hopeless, jobless, and clothed with shame, God sent a beam of light to light his dark world.
I was introduced to online writing, and I was sometimes making a little money, 500, 1,000. Unfortunately, I brought a prostitute to the house and she stole my laptop and my phone and everything. So again, I had no source of income, and my friend now was getting tired. He gave me like a last chance. He gave me his own computer to use. So I would use the computer, but any little money I got, the alcohol. At one point now I started selling things again, whatever I had, including my mattress. At one point I went to sell his computer, and he found me, and he was so angry, and he told me, now go.
By then, Chris had hit the bottom of the bottomless pit. Now a recovering addict, a manager, a father, and a mentor, how did he manage to put his life back into perspective? Well, let's find out after this short break.
FamilyNews.Today provides an escape room from the clutter through our podcasts, from church escapades,
get disappointed with God, and I think it's a misplaced anger,
to daily devotionals.
The beauty about God's love is that it was focused on all that God had.
To financial and life tips, bedtime stories for your child. All these and much more available just for you on FamilyNews.Today on Spotify, Google Podcast, and SoundCloud. Insights at your fingertips.
John chapter 10 verse 10 tells us that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. and this was clearly manifested in his life. Chris had detached from his own to become a lone ranger.
But what would my family do? I didn't want any association with them. I was like the black sheep. Not that I'm blaming them, but I had driven myself so much down to a point where I didn't want them to reach out. So eventually my mom sent for me in 2012. My brother looked for me, he found me and took me home in Karatina, Nyeri. And my mother saw me and she cried because of how I used to look. My father didn't even have words for me. And I knew this was bad. So I stayed for like a month without drinking. My mother cooked for me. At least I restored some health. But then I convinced them to ask my friend in Nairobi to give me the computer, then I would work from a cyber in Karatina. And he agreed. So I started now going to town. They gave me fare for like a week. Then the moment I got money, I went to the bars.
Chris had completely gone off course, but God's grace located him.
Then I remembered, oh yeah, I'm a trained teacher. I applied. It was not even in my mind. I applied, and instead of even going to a bigger school, I went to a small school. I got the job. So 2013 started as a teacher. I started the year as a teacher. And I met somebody, a college mate who was teaching around my home area, and we had started dating. For once in my life, I was maybe dating, but still drinking a lot and stealing from her. And 2013, we got more serious as the job started. I was still doing some online writing. Now, you stay for 3 months without getting paid. Then the money comes. When the money came, it was too much. It was 100 and something. It was like $1 million for me. I didn't go to work for almost 2 weeks, and I wasted all the money. I knew this job would come to an end. Now my fiancée was pregnant, and I decided, you know what? I want to quit this.
Thinking to himself that his end had come, Chris contemplated of ending it all.
Before I took the poison, I had this katululu simu. I texted everyone, and I even called my mom and I told her, I'm done, I'm dying. I texted my colleagues in school, and I texted my fiancée, who was heavily pregnant at that time. The reason I wanted to die was I didn't want my son to come and find me the way I was. And then when my eyesight started clearing after a few days, the doctors were on my case, my mom, my wife, why did you do this? Why could you do this? Everyone, the nurses, even the other patients, how can you take alcohol and you have a job? No one seemed to understand. Maybe I also didn't understand what was happening. But I knew I wasn't done. I knew I would still continue drinking alcohol. I spent almost a month there. And then afterwards, I was told I had mental psychosis. I was taken to a psychiatrist in Nyeri, but I didn't follow up. Still, I felt like I wasn't connecting with him. He was an old man somewhere in Nyeri. So I resumed drinking. 2014, the first interdiction came. I stopped going to work. And I had a newborn. I stopped going to work. I think I panicked or something. Maybe looking at him and seeing, oh God, now what do I do? I panicked. I stopped going to work. And I ran away from home. I had stolen my wife's money from the bank, so I ran away.
Chris had hit rock bottom one too many times, and this time round, he knew things will not end well with him. He reached out to his sister in Nairobi, who offered to host him.
Stayed sober for a few days, went back to doing cyber work, and that's how I discovered Midax in Choka. I don't know, I was passing by Kanguro Road and I saw a cyber there at 50 cents, so I would stay there, type. And then eventually, when I started drinking, my sister was fed up. So I came to Choka. I went to Choka now. And in Choka, the sex was cheap, the alcohol was cheap, there was changa, there was keg, there was everything. And no one knew me there. Now I said, now because no one knows me here and no one knows where I am, now I can die here peacefully. They'll just take me to City Mortuary.
Surely, the arm of the Lord is not too short to save, and in his dissolution, God sent help his way.
There was a Catholic church in Choka, and they used to have those community help or something. So I went there at night, in the evening, around 8, and there were those groups, and I saw a seminarian, and I talked to him. I begged to talk to him because already he had a group, and I started crying the moment I started telling my story. I cried. I told my story. He listened and listened. I think I left there at 10. And I told him, even before I started, I told him I don't have food. And he told me, no problem, I'll give you food. He gave me 50 shillings and told me to go and eat and not drink. And I feared that if I drank that money, I would die because he was a man of God.
This was a new dawn for him as he felt a sense of belonging.
So my recovery journey started in February 8th, 2017, and I've been sober. I never relapsed. When I started to go to AA, Alcoholic Anonymous, it's a congregation of people in recovery. So there are no judgments there. When you walk into that room, whether it's in a church, a social hall, all of you are equal. Whether you have been sober for 50 years or you are sober for 2 days. When I went there, I didn't even know how to talk. But I felt I had people confess how they have been drinking, and I started feeling at home. I started making baby steps. I bought a few shirts. I went to Modurua. I could not believe it. Buying a few shirts, it was like, wow. And then I would stay in the same house with money. Like these 100 shillings. The next day, the money is still there. I moved away from my sister's place in Ruai. I started dating someone. I started staying in Tawala, my own 1-bedroom. And things started looking up. There was a lot of positivity. The family support came through.
Just like the prodigal son, Chris decided to go back home to mend things with his parents.
Going home wasn't easy after messing up so much. So the reception, for once, my father hugged me. That is after so many years. The last time I had seen him hug me was when I was in primary school as a top student. Of course, he would hug me and he would be very happy because I used to top the classes up to class 8. So this was after almost 30 years. I was seeing the same love and it felt so good. And I cried, and he said he didn't have he didn't have any issues, and the past was the past. And that Christmas, I remember I was part of the family once more, and the reception, I can say it was magical.
Though Chris turned a new leaf, he still had personal struggles to deal with.
Anger issues, still the low self-esteem. I had not started seeing a therapist professionally. The first relationship didn't work. The second relationship, again, maybe I started focusing too much on recovery. It's like I discovered my purpose. So I still feel like maybe relationships, it's like I've taken a break. I feel like maybe my purpose is helping people in recovery. And I feel because I have that one boy, maybe my family line is safe.
Now a born-again Christian and 6 years sober, Chris has purposed to focus on addiction recovery, trying to save just one more person from the torture he went through.
I have just completed my diploma in addiction counseling. I have been doing a lot of alcohol addiction or even addiction recovery awareness programs. I wasn't able to maximize on it because I really needed the certification. So I'm I'm now ready to do even bigger things. I'm managing a rehab, resolutions recovery center, and that is helping me to even understand people in addiction better. I've helped people in addiction, and it's not easy. So sometimes being close to God has helped me a lot. I'm a very spiritual person, not religious, spiritual. I have my connection with my God, and that helps me it keeps me grounded.
It was during the festive season that Chris had his first sip that got him captive for 17 years. To anyone planning to let it loose this festive season,
if you haven't started drinking, please don't. Because you never know whether you are predisposed to addiction. There are people who are predisposed. There are families that are predisposed genetically. You can even look at your family line and tell we have a problem with alcohol or alcohol addiction. There are people who are predisposed because of their personalities. That's why two people can start drinking at the same age, and one within a few months is fully addicted. So you don't want to tempt fate. Alcohol is poison. It's a toxin. That's why the liver struggles to even break it down, and it breaks it down into another toxin. Why would you earn your money, make your money, and then buy something that is damaging your liver to have fun? It's not worth it. If you're not careful, even for me, 6 years sober, if I try drinking or playing around with alcohol, I might become addicted again. So I can't drink in any case. If I want to stay sober, if I want to continue impacting people, if I want to continue being a good dad, being a good son, I have just to stay away from alcohol. So if you want to start this festive season, remember this could end up tragically for you.
to anyone struggling with alcoholism and addiction,
there is hope. If it's Chris sitting here talking about sobriety, if it's Chris sitting here talking about recovery and talking to people, inspiring people in government offices, in colleges, on social media without fear, then there is hope. I had been called useless. I had been ridiculed. Like a graduate, you were useless. Una vile babako ni mtu wa kanisa. I had been ridiculed. I used to live with that stigma, with a lot of shame. You know, getting to a point where you want to take your life shows you how much a self-hatred I had for myself. And here I am talking to families, talking to people to a point where they feel like, yes, I think I can start maybe turning around my life. Then I believe there is hope. I remember my brother said, kama nigedhae ameacha pombe hata mimi nitaacha. Kila mtu anaweza acha. And he stopped. 4 brothers, now we have all quit drinking. Yeah. And all of us were in addiction.
though he suffered shame due to the struggles with alcohol, his past is now like water under the bridge, and he takes pride of the bold step he took to quit alcohol.
Own up that you have a problem. You have lost your job. You have lost your marriage. You have damaged your relationship with your parents. You have lost money. You have messed up friendships. You are physically unfit. Your liver, you've been told. You have jaundice. You are all puffed up because of your liver. You are still arguing that you are okay. You are not okay. Please own up and speak out, because in the next few months, your liver might give in, and there's nothing as painful as that. Don't die alone. Addiction is a mental health issue. Most health facilities are treating these mental health issues.
If you have a story you would like to share with us, kindly text us on 20316 or WhatsApp on 0786 316 316, and we will get back to you.